absolutely mind-blowing. Well, what a surprise that Home Secretary Suella Braverman, in a speech yesterday, basically called on police officers to leave all the woke agenda, the culture wars, race, gender issues, all of that behind, and concentrate on catching actual crooks. Mind-blowing idea, might be quite popular and might actually do the country good. But I want to get your response to that. What is your reaction to all those figures and to what the Home Secretary has had to say? Tweet me at TalkTV. You can text the word TALK to 87222 to have your say as well. We'll get as many of those on air. First up, let's talk to our favourite police officer, as was former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning.
I mean, I could just imagine you would be tearing out your hair seeing all those figures and hearing what the Home Secretary's had to say. 5.5 hours. So let's say I apprehend a burglar. I apprehend someone trying to steal my car, and I've got them. I'm holding them. I've got people holding them down, and I call the police and I say, "Can you get here?" And they turn up 5.5 hours later. That would be the average. What on earth is going on?
Well, these figures are fundamentally inexcusable because Stephen Watson, who's gone into Greater Manchester Police as Chief Constable about 18 months, 2 years ago, he was confronted with appalling figures like that, not only in terms of emergency call answering, but priority call matters. And he has sent those figures south very, very swiftly. They've employed more call handlers. They've improved their systems, so there is no excuse for this. Gloucestershire Police, who have got an appalling set of figures here, simply must do something about it. And I was very interested yesterday when Suella Braverman said there are some great leaders in policing. Yeah. Well, I wonder if these great leaders are the same people that have been in charge for the last 20 years and have made policing the shambles that it is in so many regards.
Yeah, I mean, this is the extraordinary thing, that the fact that it should be so different in different police forces. As you say, you know, Derbyshire Constabulary, it's 15.1 hours. Avon and Somerset, it's 12.9 hours. Gloucestershire, the worst performing, 18.5 hours. But, I mean, you know, police taking on average 18 hours to respond to an urgent 999 call out like a burglary or even a domestic incident where someone could be at risk. Extraordinary. Even the ones that were, you know, Essex Police, an average of more than 6 hours. It is just extraordinary. What are they doing other than responding to those sort of calls? I mean, I can understand I've come home, I've been burgled. You know, there's no... Police should be turning up on the day, but I could understand at least that, well, you've already been burgled, the burglar's not there. There isn't necessarily quite the same urgency, other than, of course, preserving maybe fingerprints and the like, and making sure that people, you know, feel reassured and safe, which is not unimportant in these scenarios when someone's had their home invaded. But when someone is literally like a domestic incident, there has been violence, for instance, or when, you know, someone is actually caught in the act of a crime, to not respond immediately is extraordinary. And yet repeatedly we see scenes where, you know, these golly dolls that were taken away from a pub in Essex. I don't like those dolls. I think I don't want to go to a pub where they're on display, but I don't think someone should be banned from having them. I don't think they're committing a crime. And even if they were, why does it take 6 police officers to turn up? How can you send 6 police officers to seize some dolls in a pub, but you can't send people to a burglary?
These matters that you've just highlighted is why the trust and confidence in the police is tanking. There was a survey released this week to show that trust in the police is at catastrophically low levels. And all these matters that you've alluded to are proof in the making of why the police have got such a poor reputation at the moment amongst people who probably all their lives fully supported them.
But I think that's a really big issue, because there are lots of people who've got mistrust in the police, and, you know, whether it's people, you know, young black men who've, only time I come across the police, they're searching me and I don't feel they're on my side and the like, and there'll be you know, people who just feel that, you know, the police aren't their side. When you're sort of average, you know, middle-class person in this country, taxpayer who's funding the police, doesn't feel that the police are going to be there for them. And we see this, let's say, you know, Just Stop Oil, Extinction Rebellion, these protests, when you've got motorists pleading with the police, please move them so I can get to work, so I can get paid and, you know, and pay my bills. When you've got people feeling like the police aren't on our side, they're on someone else's. They're on the burglar side, they're on, I don't know, the WOKERATI'S side on Twitter, they're on the side of the environmental environmental campaigners, that they're not with me, the ordinary law-abiding citizen. I want to be able to, buy stuff and keep it in my home without having it stolen. I don't want my car stolen. I want to be able to walk down the street holding my phone without it being snatched from me. And I want to be able to drive down the street and get to work, to get paid, to do my job, put food on the table for my kids and pay my heating bill. That's all I want to do. And I need the police to help me do that. And they're not doing it. You are in a very dangerous situation when people like that don't trust the police anymore.
Absolutely right. Because, of course, we are proud in the UK to say that policing is done by consent. But when Joe Public and Joanna Public begin to feel the way they do about the police, that consent could quite quickly get withdrawn. Yeah. And it was different back in the day. I'm not saying as a dinosaur that policing was perfect back then, because it won't be, because it's full of people. So, of course, it will never be perfect. But the public used to think that we were on their side. You walk down the road, people say good morning, people nod their head, and they actually thought the police were going to be there for them should they ever need them. That fundamentally has changed, and it's going to take an enormous change of attitude, leadership, values to pull that back.
But as you say, some senior figures like in Greater Manchester, we've spoken to other people about that. Sasha Lord is a nighttime industry advisor to the Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, and he's spoken to us about this, actually. These excuses that are given by, organised crime, all this and that. A good leader can tackle these issues, and a lot of it is just, boots on the ground, people on the beat, responding to issues. And again, as well as I do, I've been a reporter covering these issues for many years, it's actually quite a small number of people who commit an awful lot of crimes. And if you do actually catch those people, not only do you catch them for that burglary or that assault or that phone theft, you prevent the next 100 because they're behind bars. I mean, let's not even get to the prospect of someone actually going to prison for a crime.
And so often those persistent recidivist offenders are known to the police. And it's simply a case of deploying the right resources, some surveillance, a good investigative team, lock them up and get them off the streets. And that's what people join the police for. And there are many disillusioned cops who publicly say through their social media accounts, I'm not doing the job that I thought I was going to do. I joined to lock up bad people. I'm not allowed to do any of that. So I'm off. I'm done with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask also just about one other case? Yesterday we saw the man who had basically helped Olivia Pratt-Corbell's killer. That's Thomas Cashman. When, of course, he was basically helped by someone to get away from the scene. He's been sentenced to 22 months in prison for assisting Thomas Cashman. His name's Paul Russell. He pleaded guilty after driving Cashman back to his van following the killing and disposing of a bag of his clothes. He did apparently name Cashman when he went to police to name him when he realised that Olivia had been shot dead. He said he'd helped him, in a gangland, pact, but hadn't actually realised that Olivia had actually been shot dead. He's been sentenced to 22 months. He'll spend, less than 11 months. He's been on remand already anyway. He'll only be in prison for a few months. It's reasonable that you get time off for the pleading guilty and to actually, naming this man and helping getting him convicted. But it still doesn't feel enough, does it?
Well, I completely understand why Olivia's dad was so enraged yesterday and spoke publicly that he felt the sentence was simply insufficient. And I completely respect his position, of course. However, as an old sweat detective, I'm going to take a slightly subjective viewpoint here. Because what Paul Russell did was the day after he had assisted that murderous piece of garbage, Thomas Cashman, he realised the enormity of what had happened, and he realised that he had crucial information, actually evidence against Cashman, and he went to the police of his own accord. He gave them Cashman's name.
Yeah, you've got to give credit for that. That's the thing. We've got to encourage people to reward them for that. We understand. Really good to talk to you. Peter Bleksley, always so great to get your perspective on everything. Former Scotland Yard Detective Peter Bleksley.